It was excellent.
So then you guys
Now,
hunkered down
reflecting
for the
on it.
night at that point, or did you still just stay for a few hours and start early?
We ended up staying for the night. Um, and some of that decision was we kind of we decided we had let go of the overall record. And it was we wanted a solid night's sleep. We didn't have much dry gear at that point, and we also knew we didn't know the weather update at that point either. We didn't know what was the most up to date, and it kept raining. I think the rain stopped around 5 p.m.
Yeah.
And then just knowing the range, how it floods, it's still really wet up there. And a lot of like the soaking through wetness comes from just like brushing up against the trees.
Sure.
So we decided to wait the night there and sleep, get a good night's sleep, and go back in the morning when it had dried out some, knowing that we also had to dry gear because what we remembered of our weather forecast was the next night we were going into our coldest night. So we really just had to set ourselves up to make it through each night. And what we did in the lean-to was we assessed our food. We knew we had to finish now by Thursday afternoon, right around 3 p.m., because that's when our food was going to run out. And so we just made the call to do that, and that it was still important to complete it, to be, the first women to do unsupported. And, for me, I think I had a low moment knowing that, we lost the overall record and Katie picked me back up there, just kind of reminding me that our first goal with all of this was to have an amazing journey and to complete it and to do it safely. And we were doing all of that. And so we just kept doing that.
And there's Katie's optimism coming out in the clutch at that
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
I'll beat you over the head with it sometimes.
She will not quit. She will not quit.
It's a good type of
Katie.
friend to have. Katie's the type of friend that sometimes you hate her for being so positive, but ultimately you're really happy you have a friend like her. Because right now, too, at this point, you guys are, you're down about not completing the initial goal, or the ultimate goal, I should say. But, the other, like the silver lining, if you will, everybody listening to this podcast right now knows that you guys finished and you still persevered and you weathered the storm and kept pushing. So it still goes a long way by the fact that you guys didn't quit and you just kept going, changed your plan, hit the curveball, and kept on moving. So props to both of you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So now the next day, which was supposed to originally be the previous day, you're up on the upper Great Range and the lower Great Range. So you woke up at the Slant Rock lean-to. I assume you had a good night's sleep. Take us through that day.
Yeah, we did. It's an awesome lean-to. There's no mice crawling around your head.
Of
and
course.
we got a good night's sleep. And the trails were drying out. The trees were dry because of the wind. And we got back up on the range pretty quickly. Our stuff was wet and we kind of started in our pajama clothes and then we switched out really quick once we had gotten warm on trail to our wet clothes. And then they dried out along the way. Haystack was still really socked in and super windy. So we just went up, tagged that, came back down, and got back on the range. And Basin was still socked in. And, I wasn't feeling super optimistic yet because I was like, I got a lot of stuff I have to dry out and we need sunshine to do that. And, the last I had remembered about the weather report was it was supposed to be sunny, but it wasn't sunny yet. And it was like going on, we're getting close to like 10 o'clock, and it's on Saddleback that the sky started to part and we started to see blue sky and the sun started to come out. And it was perfect because by the time we were approaching Gothics, we had to split off and go get Sawteeth. And when you're on your way to Pyramid, there's some rocks, and we had full sun at that point, and we just laid out our stuff to dry and took our day pack to Sawteeth. And it was just nice to know stuff was drying. It gave me a peace of mind, and knowing that we were going to be able to like sleep well that night, because I had a 40-degree bag, a synthetic bag with a liner, and my liner had gotten pretty wet, and that needed to dry to have a pretty comfy night going into like a 30-degree night that was coming up. So, after Sawteeth and Gothics, the lower range does not feel like much. It's just like,
Oh, totally.
woo! Yeah, it's like we got to do 4 mountains, and you feel pretty proud because you keep getting like a mountain
Every mile.
Yep. Yeah. So we were in really good spirits coming off the range. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful area. I love that forest, that hardwood forest coming off of the Wolf Jaws, and then how it links up to we camped, I think it's Elk Pass, or it's the base of
just
Lake
before
and
Elk
Golden.
Pass.
Yeah, just before Elk Pass. So that's one of my favorite sections of the whole trip. And we kind of took a more relaxed day. We knew we didn't have a super big day, and we knew we had to dry gear. So we took time on sunny summits and dried out. And by the end of the day, we were completely dry.
Which was ultimately what was the correct decision to make, big time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of hard to, it is the right decision. It's what I teach in my classes. I'm constantly teaching my students risk management. And as much as you want to push through, sometimes in the mountains for your own goals and purposes, it's really important to always check yourself and, just make the right call.
And
make
to
the safe call.
To remember that the mountains don't care about any of your goals. They do not
Nope,
care
they
about
don't.
what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they're going to do. You have
They're
to
like,
respect them.
Yes, definitely. And we have a lot of respect for them. And so
we were proud of our decision after the fact.
Yeah,
it was hard to swallow.
We were.
Sure.
But
yeah.
So that was the end of day 5. So
Yep.
day 6, you have another very big day ahead of you. We have Colvin, Blake, Nippletop, Dial, and then the entire Dix Range. So take us through that. So you camped on the lower Elk Pass site there, and then a nice early start again. So let's hear about day 6, which is again a big day.
Yeah. So day 6 ended up being a tough start for me. Just as we were rolling into camp the night before, my right quad started getting really tight. But I didn't think too much of it. I was like, we've been up and down the Great Range all day. I'm going to be off it for 6 hours and get some good rest, and it's going to work itself out. And, I didn't stress about it too much. Woke up day 6, was feeling pretty good. We headed off, started out towards Colvin and Blake, summited Colvin without too much issue. Once we started heading back towards Blake is really where I started having some problems. I had a pretty severe knot right at the head of my quad that was pulling on my knee, and causing some pretty significant pain anytime I bent my leg, which you do a few times when you hike.
Yeah.
So that ended up being a little bit of a problem for a bit. We made our way out to Blake. I was still kind of pushing through the pain. We were coming back in, and we got, past Colvin, and Bethany was just moving much more easily than me. So she ended up dropping down to the junction and waiting for me. And it just kept getting more and more and more painful as I went. And it took me, gosh, a long time. I think Bethany was waiting for me for a solid 20 minutes before I got back down. So we lost a lot of time on those two peaks. And I got back down to the junction, and it was kind of a somber feel between us at that point. I think I showed the pain on my face a little bit more than I thought that I did. And I kind of tried to just keep going about my business, getting some water, getting some food. And Bethany was like, "Hey, we need to talk about this because you're not okay. And we can't just ignore it. We're getting ready to go into a bushwhack to the Dix Range. That's not a place for your leg to lock up and us to be, caught out there, So she was definitely concerned about me. But I'm pretty stubborn. And I knew that being on the range all day the day before, we were pretty exposed. It was a very sunny day. I knew if I got some fluids, some electrolytes into my body, that I could loosen up the muscle. And, when I want something bad enough, I can push for it. So I knew I could overcome the pain, and I knew I could keep going. And, that's pretty much what we did. So, we talked it through. I got some water, I got some electrolytes, I got some food, kind of massaged it out for a few minutes. It remained painful the rest of the trip. It ended up being an issue the rest of the trip for me. But I was able to get it to the point where, we agreed, okay, we'll hike towards Nipple Top. And if I'm still not okay, then we'll make a call on this. And luckily it did end up loosening up to some extent, to the point where, I could bend my leg. And even though it was a bit painful, I could hike through it. And we picked up the pace, and we got back pretty much to our normal pace again, hit Nipple Top, cruised on over to Dial. I was feeling a lot better at that point. And then we dropped to the Col, and we did the bushwhack over to the Dix Range. And I was pleasantly surprised by that bushwhack. We just set an azimuth on my compass and just stayed course. And the forest never really got super thick. It never got really nasty. Made our way with pretty good time across to the Dix Trail. Hit it pretty much right where we wanted to, just before the slide. We headed up towards the slide, took a nice break on the slide. That Dix slide is so, so beautiful. Just a really great place to just sit and kind of rest for a few minutes. I massaged out my quad a little bit more. We got some food. And then we packed up and got ready for that, infamous steepest mile in the Adirondacks, going up Dix, which just about almost exactly a week before, we had been resting quite a bit, and we were feeling a bit antsy. So we had actually done another FKT, which is the giant Dix Traverse FKT, to just kind of shake out our nerves, get me an FKT under my belt, kind of just burn off some energy. And we had done that exact same path, coming up the Dix slide, doing that steepest mile in the Adirondacks, and then hitting the full Dix Range. So, to be back there just over a week later was a cool feeling. And our bodies were very familiar with that terrain. And the first time around, I went in the lead, and I set a really nice, slow, steady pace that wouldn't burn us out. And we both felt really good about that pace. And so we knew it, our bodies knew it, and I just took the lead, and I set that same pace, and we just got into a really, really nice rhythm, and we just climbed that whole mile up, summited Dix, and we just felt like we were on top of the world.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful moment. And we thought and talked about our friend Nancy LaBaff, who was the first woman with her friend Claudia to do the supported 46 FKT just a few months prior. We had talked to her quite a bit before we went out. She was super supportive. And, we kind of had a moment on Dix, and it was cool. It's hard not to feel like you're on top of the world when you're standing up there. Yeah,
and especially after that climb up there, if you're not familiar with the climb she's talking about, it is just so